Okay, so we are back. It's been a little bit since the last episode of Financial Life, and today I have a great, I said host. I'm the host. I have the guest on. Sorry about that shit. I'm a great host today on my podcast. And this is someone I'm an actual client of, so high praise for them and their work, what they do. We're talking more about today with what she does, health, and the other side, the energy work that also needs to be done along with health, that we'll have her discuss more about that as well. And how can you use that to keep healthy, stay healthy, and get the results you want in your own health journey. All right. So before I get into that, some of you may know, some of you may not know, I do some things with like life coaching, financial literacy, credit repair. And if you like help with any of those areas, you can book a free call with me at go to speakwithmatt.info. Again, speakwithmatt.info. That'll take you directly to my calendar. You don't need to put in the www. Then finally, this episode is sponsored by Born to Risk, and I'm one of the co-authors, and probably can't see it, but I finally have a copy of the book that I got, and I'm at chapter 39. So if anyone would like a copy, reach out to me, make sure one gets to you. But it's a big deal, and it's awesome too as well. So that being said, I'd like to welcome my guest, Jen Beck. Jen, thanks for being on. It's gonna be a good episode because you and I, I've been a client of yours for over a year now and stuff. So thanks for being on today.
Awesome, Matt. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on the book. That's super exciting.
Thank you. Yep. I'm a co-author, so I'm like 40 people on it. So it'll be everyone's chapter is different. So cool. But tell people about who you are exactly. I know who you are, but not everyone does,
Fair. So I'm Jen Beck. I'm the founder and owner of Complete Health Revolution. And I help people that have really been in the space of overwhelm, overweight, exhausted from overgiving, and they are just over it, to create lasting transformation, lasting change from the inside out.
Right. I like that. Short, sweet, concise, all that stuff. Now, do you work mostly with women, or do you work, as far as the health side of things, is it mostly with women and their struggles with weight and everything else? Do you work with both men and women?
I do work with both men and women. I do work primarily with women. I would say I work with women and a few brave men. Almost all of them are high achievers, though. They're the ones that are like the doers and the get it done and type A. And they end up over responsible. And so they are so busy giving that they forget to put themselves on their priority list, or sometimes even on their to-do list at all.
Right.
And I really help them put themselves back in the driver's seat, step out of the passenger seat and back into the driver's seat of creating a life that they love by putting themselves first at the top of their list. It doesn't have to be me first all the time, but it gets to be me too. And really step into that place of creation and author of our own life.
I like that. Cool. Now, you are also a practitioner, certified practitioner of LIFT, which, correct me if I'm wrong, stands for letting in intuitive flow therapy, correct or no?
Not quite.
I tried.
That's a good guess.
Yeah.
It actually stands for Life Improving Internal Focus Technique.
Okay.
So it's LIFT Untherapy. And actually that was the first modality that I got certified in. It really was the launching point for so much of my own personal healing journey, as well as the work that I do with my clients now. I've started as a recipient and then moved into practitioner, became an advanced certified practitioner. I'm a master practitioner now, and have actually co-authored some of the tools and resources that we use.
And I know you're a master practitioner. I thought like you just got certified and you've had a lot of experience. You're like up the game. Then you're like, I co-author some stuff. I'm bored. I need more stuff to do. Okay. Let me write my own book on them. So what led you to LIFT? And since then, like, what was your journey prior to that got you into that?
Yeah. So LIFT was one of those. It was a complete God moment, right? I had been in a really we'll just say challenging marriage for a very long time, and had gotten to a place where I was so busy keeping the peace and trying to keep everybody else happy that I put myself on a shelf. And I was just going through the motions. I was watching Grey's Anatomy with a laptop open and a glass of wine with me every night and just existing. And I was still running my business and stuff. And I happened to go to a networking event, and Brian Eastman, who's the creator of Lyft, was there. And he's like, hey, would anybody like to try a session? I was like, okay, I'll try. I mean, it's just one of those places. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, Matt, where you're just like, is this all there is? There's got to be more than this. I just like, it's fine, but it's not awesome by any means. And I just got into a place of feeling stuck and unfulfilled and just, yeah. So I took Brian up on his offer, and my first session, I noticed a significant difference. And by the fourth session, I'm like, I need to learn how to do this.
Right.
Because it was so profound. I mean, in my, I've been in nutrition for 23 years. I started adding in modalities probably about 7 years ago now. And, but up until then, like, it was all very above the water, right? If you think about an iceberg, it's the tip of the iceberg. So if I'm helping people with health, they're typically looking at, these are the things that I'm eating. These are how much exercise I'm doing. Maybe we look at sleep or supplements or things like that, but it's above the tip of the iceberg.
Correct.
And even mindset and mindfulness, it dips below the surface a little bit, but it doesn't actually get into what's under the under. And the under is how we drive our actions, our default ways of being.
Yep.
And so when we can heal those, the hidden drivers, which cause our ways of being, then it allows us to be able to heal everything. So that for me was just, I remember seeing changes in myself, and even seeing changes in, who's now my ex-husband. And I was like, I'll never forget. There was one day I came home from a session, and one of the, it's about removing the toxic beliefs and installing positive ones permanently. And one of the things that we had healed for was positive change occurs in my life. It's right, say, okay, and appropriate for positive change occur in my life every day. And it does. So I do that healing, right? I come home, and we hadn't really been interacting or anything else. And he comes in and he's like, hey, how are you? Like, I just want to just spend a few minutes and check in and just really see, like, what's going on with you? How are you doing? And I was like, did this really just happen?
Right.
I mean, it was so bizarre, and I didn't change anything. I didn't do anything other than change my energy, my way of being, and the filters that I was looking at life through. So that for me was like, that was one of our first few sessions. I was like, okay, I gotta figure out how this works and how I can do it. And so that's what led me down the journey of certification. And then I've accumulated other modalities and certifications since then too.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Safe and appropriate. I remember that, writing that down so many times. Yeah. No. What you do is very important, because I think the first session I had with you and talking about more about beneath the surface. This is where we get into the subconscious, unconscious mind used interchangeably that people aren't aware of. That's really driving our behavior when it comes to health, dieting, and all this stuff. We'll get into that. What people don't know is that in anything you're trying to do, you're going to have beliefs and inherited trauma and things that you've inherited from parents, grandparents, and ancestors that's in you have no idea. And then you wonder why you can't get things, or trauma responses is why you act a fool in certain things. I know the first time with you, I think you would ask questions like, is there any trauma? And I was like, none. My parents divorced. I handled that years ago. I'm good. And it was like, yep, there's like, where? It was like, and it was two of them on my dad's side. I was like, what? And after those two things, I felt so like, I don't know, I felt like I was high, euphoric. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, wow, I need to keep doing this. And it was such a shift. And for me, people have noticed, and there's one lady actually, name's Kelly. She ever listened to this. I went on her podcast last year, and I was just like going off with the mouth, just being honest. And then we met up again about a year later. And this is when after I had more sessions with you. And she was like, I've noticed a change. And I was like, I hope it's a good one because you're way more like, what she said, calm down to earth. And she's like, because on the podcast, you were just, now you're like, oh, didn't realize it. So thank you for, yeah. So what you do is important because it helps to calm down the nervous system. You think better, you're more grounded, and you're just like, oh, I didn't recognize that. So it's definitely a big thing, and people don't realize that. Speaking of dieting and health and stuff, prior to these energetic modalities and lift, what were you doing before, and what challenges did you see people going through? Like the most common ones, and obviously there's ones that are like that's it, but like what was it that you would help them with, and they would get so far? And did some actually have full success? Did some actually get there and stop and kind of repeat the cycle? Like what was that like for them?
Yeah, great question. Great question. And I think if you've ever been to a doctor, like their first thing is like, well, if you just lose the weight, then you'd be fine. And
well, no shit. It's like
right?
I'm here.
Well, but here's the thing though, like the weight isn't actually the issue. Weight is a symptom of something else under the surface.
Right.
There are 12 physical reasons why we carry extra weight. There's 8 emotional reasons why we carry extra weight.
Oh.
So I would work with people and they would get great results. I mean, I've had men drop 45 pounds in 3 months. I've had women release, 40 pounds over the course of 4 months. I mean, incredible results. And not just that, but they're improving their health. So when you do the things that release the weight, your health improves. Not because you lost the weight, because you did the things to make the weight fall off.
Right.
Right. Like that's the difference of like, if we just look above the surface of like, I need to eat more or burn off more calories than they take in. That is like this much of the entire piece.
That's small.
Because it doesn't look at any of the other pieces about like, what are you eating? What's the quality of your eating? How does it interact with your body? Like, I mean, Weight Watchers has a 92% recidivism rate.
Oof.
92%, meaning people lose the weight and 92% of them go back. That's why they have a lifetime guarantee once you hit your goal weight. But it doesn't teach you the fundamentals and the principles. So the work that I do is so in my program Transform, we talk about your mind, your mouth, and your measurements. Because those are the 3 things that really people are missing when it comes to lasting transformation. Right. We talked a little bit about the mind, and the mind is both awareness as well as what's under the under, right? What are the things like we all know we should be eating more broccoli and chicken than brownies and cookies. That's kind of common sense, but yet most people in America, cookies and brownies.
No.
Right?
Brownies are really good though, I can't lie.
So it's looking at like, that's our mouth, right?
Yes.
We're eating, we're consuming. But the mind is, why do we do what we do? What kind of conditioning and programming? I mean, Clean Plate Club. There are starving kids in Ethiopia. Eat your vegetables. Right? Or you have dessert after every meal, or mom never bought us treats, or like we have all of this stuff that drives our default ways of being. So for me, I've always taught people how to personalize our nutrition. If you're just eating calories to calories, you are missing the boat. We all have a metabolic design of how much protein, fiber, and fat our body needs. And we all have different levels of health and different ancestry. All of those impact and influence what you should be eating today. 5 years ago, 5 years from now, some of those are going to be tweaked based on your current status of health.
Right.
Okay? So it's a matter of like learning to listen to your body. How do you prioritize it? How do you understand what your body needs? And there's specific assessments that I use. So we dive into that and personalize it. Then it's a matter of like, how do I do it on a daily basis? Because again, if we have the knowledge and they're like, I'm too busy, I don't know how to cook. I mean, we all have roadblocks to execution.
Correct.
Otherwise we would be doing it.
Right.
So we get to identify like, what are the roadblocks that are in your way? How do we go over them, around them, blow them up, or break through them? So we use the mouth, right? The other thing is it's also what you're talking to yourself about.
That part that you never hear that. I've never heard that in any diet exercise program. It's just focus on the calories in and then the nutritional value. Then it's like the doing, the exercise.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
more to it than that.
It is. There's so much more to it. And so like I have a gentleman I worked with, and his career is building into other people. He leads retreats. He's got a massive movement where he's a thought leader and a spiritual development guide and all of that. And he has people that has these massive transformations. And he's like, I just want to release 40 pounds. And I want to be able to get my blood sugar and blood pressure under control. And so we started working together, and he now calls me his change angel.
I like it.
Do you know what one of the most important things that he said was the key for him?
No.
He goes, I build in on a daily basis, my career to build into other people. And I loved on everyone else except for me. He was so hard on himself, and he would belittle himself for any little thing that wasn't working. And so just annihilated his self-esteem with all the stuff that wasn't working.
Right.
So I taught him how to talk to himself, to love on himself, and to build into himself. And it was so amazing, Matt. Within like 2 weeks, he had a complete 360-degree change, right? Or 180. Clearly math is my strong suit.
Math, exactly.
Right? But it was a total 180, and seeing him go through this process where it just got to be a way of life. And he went from lethargic, struggling, 40 pounds overweight to like kayaking every day, riding his bike, living his best life, and nourishing and nurturing his body at the same time. Right? And that started because of what he was saying to himself on a daily basis, first thing in the morning.
Right.
So we've got to do both what goes in as also what comes out.
The part that no one talks about, because you don't hear about it, you don't see it on ads and things, it's like, I lost this weight and I feel like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, do you think that when it comes to, or maybe when it comes to trying to be healthy, losing weight, it's more so of, like you just said, how we talk to ourselves and like the underlying structures or beliefs and things, that's more the factor than like, obviously what you're eating and your exercise, right? Do you feel like it's underlying as well?
All goes together.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can separate the two. So when it comes to our overall health and health trajectory, we have to deal with what's under, right? If you look at any of the ACEs, the adverse childhood event score, if we're looking at that, and they've literally proven that our childhood events are negative, are traumas, big traumas, little traumas, right? You can have abuse, or you can have, Sally was mean to me on the playground, or we lost a loved one, or there was a divorce. All of those have a direct impact on us, and they turn on certain genes and they turn off certain genes. So it does increase our likelihood of developing disease over our lifetime. The beautiful part about that is you can turn genes on and off by healing what's under and healing the trauma, and by changing what you stick in your mouth or don't stick in your mouth. So they both are hand in hand.
Correct.
It's not incredible results with clients just by changing their diet and lifestyle. I have seen 10x results when we combine the two. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a gal I worked with a couple of years ago. She had Crohn's. She had Crohn's for over 9 years. She had surgery, which removed a massive amount of her GI system. They left her just enough so she didn't have to carry an ostomy bag with her, a poop bag. And, but she was still struggling. She still had low energy. She still had GI issues. She was still on medications and just didn't feel good. And this woman, talk about a team. She had specialists for every area of her body. She had 2 different chiropractors, functional medicine doctor, supplement person, like you name it. She had a massive team of people and still felt miserable. And she came to me and I said, well, what does success look like for you? And she's like, I don't know, maybe over the course of the next year, like what I learned from you over the course of the next year, I can implement it and I can start to feel better. I'm like, that's a pretty low bar to set, but okay. Yep. I'm pretty sure we can get you feeling better in a year.
Yep.
And we worked together, and from the start with her, we incorporated both physical as well as mental. We did the under as well as, you know, the mouth, mind, and measurements, all three of them. And a month later, so we did one call a week. A month later, she gets on the call and she's like, Jen, I didn't think I could feel this good after a year, let alone after a month.
Wow.
4 weeks, 9 years of suffering, 4 weeks, because we addressed the guilt and anger that she carried, and we addressed what she was putting in her mouth. She freed up the space in her gut to go from churning emotions to digesting her food and utilizing the nutrients.
Right.
We healed her body because we addressed both the mouth and the mind.
Love when the dog in the background. Yes, that's good. That shows you like how like it's really the energy is a big factor. That you remove that, the body can then process, heal, and function as it wants to, and you free up also energy to like heal other parts of your body. You know?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, so think about it this way. God designed our bodies to heal themselves. If you break a bone, it heals. If you have a cut, it heals. What
Right.
interferes with that is some of the toxic levels in our body, dehydration, deficiencies, like all of those things, which are directly linked to our mouth.
Correct.
Or the energetic interferences and imbalances that prevent our body from healing internally. So if we're designed to heal by addressing both the physical as well as the emotion, we store our emotions in our body.
We do.
And those emotions manifest physically as a little knocker, like, hey, pay attention over here. Hey, like something's going on. And I've got several different charts that I use to look at like what area of the body are you dealing with and what does it represent? Because when we can address that, it is amazing how fast somebody can completely feel symptom-free or tremendously reduce their pain and discomfort.
Yeah, I've had that experience myself with this was years ago. Like for some reason, like I think my right heel was like just in a lot of pain. Yeah, it was the heel of the I can't talk today. Probably your foot at the starts being on the heel, whatever it is. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was like, why am I so much pain? And I sat there and I was like, let me be present with the emotion. It was a lot of anger, felt it, done, and then it was like the pain was pretty much gone. I was like, whoa, I just healed myself. And it's a true thing. Like your body is going to let you know, hey, you have this thing going on. You should address this, but we don't know. We get in the way, and then we end up going the route that we're all taught: go to the doctor, take this pill, do this, do that. It's like they're not addressing the root cause of it. A lot of it, I believe, is just trapped emotions that we don't know about from childhood. We've inherited stuff from parents and everything else, which leads me to we talked about working together. I know a lot of stuff I've had from like ancestors. I'm like, what in the world has happened to humans in general in our amazing past, right? And what is your experience? What do you know about so much about the effects of their ancestors and what they did, and from nutrition and for energy side that's having an effect on us this day, especially with what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we're looking at nutrition or physical health, right? A lot of people go, it's just genetic. That's the way it's going to be. Well, your genes are like a gun. The gun is neutral. It's the person pulling the trigger decides if it's good or bad.
Right.
So your genes are neutral. Your nutrition and your lifestyle is what pulls the trigger, good or bad.
Right.
So it's very much, you can have, biomarkers and be genetically predisposed and things like that, but it doesn't mean that it's going to come to fruition. But if you live exactly like your parents and ancestors did, yep, you're pretty like, hi, we're just creating a duplication. So you get to choose how you live your life. That's the beautiful part, right? What happened to us as kids does not dictate our future. It's just where we come from.
Right.
On the emotional and belief side and the trauma side, that gets passed down generation to generation to generation. And it's not always ours, but it kind of sits dormant in our body. And then when we experience something that feels similar at the same intensity, it's like unleashing the box. So I
Correct.
was talking about like we're carrying around this warehouse of fireworks, and you step into a situation that feels similar. Let's say dad was a yeller when you were a kid, and now you have a teacher and then a boss who are also yellers.
Ah,
You have dad's trauma from when dad was a yeller, and if dad was a yeller, chances are his mom or dad was a yeller, and maybe even his grandparents, and maybe even further back than that. Right. So all of that snowballs through generations.
Oh
But
no.
now you're a kid, you have a yelling teacher, it activates all of that. Now you're an adult and you have a boss who is demanding or has a gruff tone. It may not even be that he's yelling, but he just talks in a loud, booming voice, but it activates all of this. So it triggers our nervous system. It creates the beliefs of like, I'm not lovable, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough. And it may not even be something he says, but it's the feeling.
Correct.
And our brains want to stay out of emotional distress. So then they activate all the stories about why we are the way we are, why that happened, da, 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 da. And so we're carrying that stuff with. So that's why doing root cause coaching and emotional healing is so critical, because we're getting down to what's under. We're getting down to the origination story of where that came from. So we can release all of that and we get to stand in our truth, free to be who we are, unapologetically ourselves. And we get to enjoy optimal health and freedom and peace and love and joy and connection without the baggage. It gets to be easy. Like life gets to be easy when we're in that space.
I agree. And it also becomes more enjoyable. I know I've had sessions with you. I noticed with me, I would just be more calm, like, oh, I feel good, and be nothing going on. I was like, wow, this is what life is like by default. It's just like it's almost like being a kid again. We're happy for no reason. You're like, oh, this is great. And you're in state innocence all the time. It's like that, but from adult, we're like, wow, this is cool. I'm gonna sit here for a bit and just enjoy myself. Wow, it's not time.
Nothing.
It's great. And I didn't realize that because of all the baggage, not all the baggage, but all the emotion that I didn't realize I had inherited, carried on from other things that's in you. And like I know with you, I remember with my father, whenever we go do new things, I always carry a lot of fear for new things. I'll hide a lot of fear. And then for whatever reason, work with you, I think with when we got to the fear energy I had at a scale from 1 to 10, mine was at like 15 or 20. It was like above 10. It was a lot. I was like, no wonder I'm so afraid. Where's this coming from? I must have gotten it from somebody along in my family, whatever. And we worked through it. And after that, that was the one where afterwards I felt tired for like 2 days. It was the day of. The next day I was like, I'm still tired. What in the world? And it's because I had so much of that. It felt so intense. And letting it go, I've been like, that's pretty good. You don't have to worry about shit. It becomes more
So
awesome.
good. Yeah, so good. And I also remember that conversation afterwards. You're like, I'm still so tired. I'm like, did you walk right afterwards? You're like,
I think I did.
no.
Yeah, I know. After a session, I'm always like, I'm tired, like go walk. I'm like, I'm gonna walk. And then I do and I feel good. And then afterwards, I'm like, I'm tired. But that one, I believe I did. Next day I did work out. I was like, cool. And I was like, I think I need to take it. I worked out and I still need to take a nap. But I was like, what in
Yeah.
the world have I been carrying for so long?
Yeah.
It's such a
Generational stuff,
oh
right? And I mean, think about it, it snowballs.
right.
So let's say somebody, I mean, the farthest back I think I've had is somebody had 43 generations.
43 generations.
43 generations. And
Oh,
so think of the snowball effect from that, because every time like we feel it, we get triggered, but every generation before that got triggered too. So it just snowballs all through the generations. And now we're carrying that. We're like, I don't understand why I'm dealing with this.
mhm.
It is so, and it's so amazing how tangible things are. Right. So
Yeah.
I have a gal I work with couple years back, and she was dealing with some left knee pain. And, you know, she's like, oh, I've had this chronic pain for 20 years. She was in her late 50s. And she's like, it's just always been there. I mean, but now it's to the point where I just, you know, take a step one at a time and bring my foot up, and take a step and bring my foot up. And I can, you know, I can't get up and down off the ground. And, you know, it's starting to impair my body. But she came to me because she wanted to lose weight. So we started talking about this, and I started asking, like, well, you know, so she's just said she was having systemic pain, and then started telling me about her knee. And I said, you know, what knee is it? And where is it localized? And she's like, it's in my left knee. Well, your left knee is your female side of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know, and the knee is attached to the fear of being persecuted for who you are.
Oh.
And I said, does that resonate at all? It's also stubborn, pride, ego, inflexibility. Like, there's other things with that, but that was the one that she lasered in on. And she's like, yeah. And I said, oh, do you have any family history of this? Because it's not always ours. Sometimes it's stuff that we inherit.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, actually, my mom has had knee problems her entire life. And she goes, yeah, I mean, she was walking with a cane by the time she was 50. And I said, you know, is there anything past your grandmother's? And she goes, she goes, my mom's knee was amputated from above, my grandmother's knee was amputated from above the knee down. And I was like, interesting. And I said, you know, do you know anything about her life? And she was like, yeah, she was a slave, and she had actually been beaten.
Ooh.
Profusely, just for no reason, like it was a target kind of thing. So that knee pain passed down generation to generation.
Wow.
Right. And so we do work around specifically this fear of being persecuted who you are. Matt, she came to me 2 weeks later, and she goes, I just had my first 99% pain-free day.
Wow.
She literally was off booking a hiking trip in 4 months.
Nice. That's
right? So
huge.
debilitating pain, can't walk up the stairs or get up and down off the ground, to being able to go hiking. When she became pain-free, the only changes we had made is we increased her water and we increased her vegetables a little bit. So not massive overhaul lifestyle-wise, but the biggest difference came in that 3 weeks when we started really releasing the trapped emotion and the beliefs in our body and the fear.
Wow. Now you got me thinking of what else I'm carrying on from my parents, grandparents, and whoever else in my family, what they didn't deal with. They're like, oh, let's have kids. Poop. So because of you and because of working with you, I've learned that I've told people, like, now, we inherit more than just, you know, our parents' DNA and good looks. It's also other gifts that they give us they didn't know about. Hey, here's some PTSD from 7 generations up, and here's some chronic pain, and also here's some triggering moments that we don't know where it came, but hey, welcome to life. And you're like, what? Thanks.
Yeah.
Next time someone looks at you the wrong way, you're gonna want to punch him in the face, and you will have no idea why, and then you'll do it, and you have no idea why. You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I remember when I first started like learning about this, I was like, really? Like, come on, really trapped emotions really do all of that. Like, I mean, really, like, it just was so foreign. I was a little skeptical. And then I experienced it, and I was like, all right, maybe I need to open my mind a little bit more. And now, I mean, I see so much evidence of this and so much proof. So for any of your listeners that are like, I get it. And the thing I would say is, if that you are struggling with your physical or emotional health, and you feel like you've done all the things, maybe this is the solution. Maybe this is going to help you get to the place where you really want to be, versus staying stuck. Even if you're skeptical, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
I had one woman, she's like, yeah, thanks for that session. I just did a demo session for her. And then sends me an email 4 months later. She goes, you know, I know I didn't follow up with you, but like, I think that stuff really works. She goes, every year for the last 7 years, around in March, and this was like, I think, December. She was around March. I lost both my parents and my sister during this time. And every year I get super depressed. But this year, like depressed for the whole month. This year I was a little sad on their day.
Of course.
But that's it. I
Wow.
had no melancholy. I had no depression. I had nothing. I felt great. I was a little sad on those days, but that's it. This has been going on for 7 years.
Mm.
And she goes, I still don't understand it. I still don't know that I agree with it, but like, I can't dispute it. So thank you.
You got her on the believer boat. There we go.
Right. So it's a lot of it's just awareness and exposure and just a little of like, I'm open-minded to try something that may be outside of my traditional wisdom or exposure.
Yes.
So that I can create the results that I want.
Yes. I totally with you on 100% on that. Let me ask you this. So I've been saying recently that because you talked about it earlier, again, that mindset goes a little bit below the surface, just like a teeny tiny bit. I'm starting to say now in my views, like mindset's not the answer, it's the doorway. What's your view on that? Because you and I and both, you get into business and you work for yourself in entrepreneurship, you hear mindset. It's all about your mindset. After before like working with you, getting with Medic, Mind, everything else, and learning more about what we hear, I'm like, it doesn't address any of that. It can't. It's like it assumes just change your mind. Like, well, you have an unconscious mind, subconscious mind, which is really on the show, and you can't address. You can't talk to it like that because it's like, no, I'm gonna communicate with beliefs, patterns, symbols, and emotion, which you don't like because you want to be analytical. It doesn't work like that,
Yeah. I'll tell you, I am super analytical, which is probably why I was a little skeptical in the beginning.
I can't believe you said that. You were super analytical and you got into this. That's like
Oh yeah, I'm
opposites.
100%. Yep. 100%. I'm very a linear thinker. I'm a big planner. I'm a big details person. And it's actually become my superpower when it comes to the work that I do, because I can connect the dots. Right. I can read through, somebody looks at a food log and they're like, I'm doing pretty good. And I'm like, oh, what about these 18 things over here? Because I look at patterns, right? So it's become my superpower to be really analyzing and being really analytical. And so it's really getting into what's underneath. You're right. The mindset is the awareness. The mindset is the intention. The mindset is the active change management, right? It's like, we talk about like, if I want this result, I'm going to do these actions, and I get there and I go, yeah, I'm there.
Right.
Do you remember the game Shoots and Ladders?
Yes.
Climb all the way up and then you hit a shoot and you go, woo. That's what we do in our habit change 90% of the time. I want to lose weight. I'm going to go and eat better, no more sugar, no more carbs, no more alcohol. I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to drink my water. I'm going to eat my vegetables, do all these things, right?
Right.
And as long as you can sustain all of that, you can get your result. Now, most people don't ever get to the point that they get the result, but even if they do, they go, oh my God, thank God I don't have to do that anymore. Right. Or they want to pay off their debt and they go, thank God I got there. Now I can go buy something.
Right.
I'm on my credit card now. Like, I mean, we're just patterned that way because we want to go back to our known zone, back to our default. It's our default way of being, but it's driven by our thoughts, our feelings, and our beliefs. And it's created by our experiences, our influences, our programming and conditioning.
Right.
So the awareness piece is knowing I need to do this to get here. I need to think like this. Like I need to think like a millionaire thinks. And if I think what a millionaire thinks and I do what he does, then I'll get his results. But that's like somebody winning the lottery. They have the result, but they haven't done the growth pattern to get there. They haven't addressed what's below the surface. They've just gotten the result because they've muscled through it. And we have been taught to power up and power through and get her done and act as if and all of the things, which can help to create new ways of being and new patterns and new habits. But we have to maintain those versus creating a new way of being.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I like that analogy. And you're right. we were taught to get from point A to B, you have to be different, think different, do all these things, and then a lot of people, if they get there, they go right back to where they were before. Same thing in credit repair. It's like you're fighting. How do I say this? It's like you're suppressing and fighting who you are to get there, and you drink just enough. If people do, and I'm like, cool, and there's relief. Let me go back to the bullshit that got me here, and they don't realize it. Or for a lot of people, they never get there in the first place, and you get stuck in like this doom loop of you get a little bit of it, and then you never really get there. You never get there, never get there, because you're not addressing, like you said, the underlying causes that got you there in the first place. The beliefs, the emotions, the things say we can't have this because we get this, it's bad. So we have to keep you safe. It's funny how the unconscious mind is like, no matter what you want to do, make more money, get healthier. It's like, well, we could get healthier, or we're good now. But if we never get there, we could die getting there. And then, like, what if something happens where, let's stay where we're at. Let's keep
Mhm.
saying problems and issues and diseases because this is the devil that we know. That we
Yep.
don't know. No.
Right. I mean, money, growing up, my parents fought about money all the time. So in my mind, money is bad. Money equals divorce. Money equals arguments. My little 8-year-old kid inside of me is going, I don't want any money.
Right.
So I used to be able to make a lot of money and then I would lose a lot of money, or I wouldn't lose it, but I would spend it. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? It's like, and there's millionaires out there that have very, very little actual net worth because they make a lot and they spend a lot. They never maintain it. They never hold on to it because money is bad, dangerous, angry, selfish, rude. I mean, you name it, the amount of beliefs that we have attached to money or
That's a lot.
ourselves, right? I mean, there's so much, which is why if we don't do the under work, we are constantly in management mode, which becomes exhausting after a while.
It does. You realize that you're fighting yourself the entire time. You're fighting challenges like, no, it's yourself. You got the challenge. No, it's yourself. It's like it's just interesting, and that's where, with what I do, want to help out more people on that underneath level that says like, well, we'll help you fix credit, but like you want to stay there because it's funny because people like they'll do just enough to get there. It's like the tension, the stress, the resistance. They get it, and then they're like, cool, we got the house. And it's like, no,
Yep.
you don't do that because then
Did
at
what I
that
needed to
point,
do.
when you go to apply and you have the house with the bad credit, you look worse than the person with bad credit who has no house.
Yep.
Maintain it. So look into why, what are your beliefs of money? What are your memories? Like, what else did you inherit about money? Because I know with you, we worked through me and my money stuff, and there's been money beliefs. I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't have money. You're like, it's not yours, it's someone else's.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yep.
Oh, well,
The
one more quick
ancestors.
thing too about um oh my god, there's the beliefs and things we inherit. There's one section you have in yours called I know I'm trying to remember. It's unknown and others or whatever.
Yeah.
Explain that because for a while I was like, wait, who's unknown others? Because it was like it goes self, little use or something like that. Then there's parents, the different. Then there's unknown and
Yeah.
others, and I'm like, who is that? So explain that if people understand. Like,
Yeah. So unknown and others is literally anybody that we don't have a way of identifying, because think about how many people throughout the course of your life have influenced you, right? I mean, it can be a teacher, it could be a coach, it could be a girlfriend, it could be a friend, it could be a kid in your class, it could be the guy on the bus, it could be the woman that hit on you, it was the guy that jeered at you. It was, like, it could be anyone. It's anyone and anything, like anyone and I mean, probably not anything, so I don't know when things can talk, but
that'd be
sometimes we
crazy.
create stories about things, right?
Right.
But it's really those outside influences that we sometimes take on their stuff. They experience shame or they experience horror or terror, and we're in the vicinity and we take that on too, because we're all energy, right? We're energetic beings that pass back and forth. And if we don't have a strong enough constitution, we take on more people. Like, we've got all these highly sensitive and empathetic people that don't have a strong magnetic field, and or they have a lot of trauma and damage that have created kind of pockets and holes. If you think about, like, we have this little force field is our energy bubble of us, Well, the outside things poke holes in that. So it allows other things to permeate in that. So
Right.
when we can heal that, we get to reinforce our force field. We let all of the good and the love in, and we keep all of the negative and toxic out. But others and unnames or anyone that's around us that they either experience something or they influenced us in a certain
Right.
way.
Yeah. I didn't know that because and that's in current life stuff that you hear from a whole bunch of things that we don't, and people don't realize that like if you're not aware of it, you can take on other people's stuff and you don't realize it.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, well, I feel this way. Well, you interacted with someone yesterday, last week, last month, whatever, and that's where it comes from. So send it back to whoever you receive it from, back to sender, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. A great thing to do to just be able to clear your energy for anyone that's out there. At the end of the day is I take back any energy I may have given and I give back any energy I may have taken. So you're literally just like cleaning it up.
Start fresh 24 hours later.
Yeah, especially if you have a bad day or if you've walked into a situation where like somebody else has tension or an argument, like you can just, that's not mine. I don't need to carry that around.
It's not my juju. Go away, please.
Exactly.
You keep it. I don't want it. It's not going to benefit
Yep.
me. Creates a whole household of just we don't like it with this bad. It's just not the energy you want
Yeah.
now. So cool.
Yeah, we don't need to carry the load for someone else.
No, we don't. Well, we end up doing it. That's only because we don't know about it. So,
Yes.
but this has been a good episode. So I will have to go on for a part 2 to talk more about this. It's already been like an hour. Anything else you want to share? And then also, how can people contact you? Be like, I want to do some of the health stuff, but the lifting, and they're curious and all that.
Yeah. So I often combine both, right? I mean, I really have 3 pillars I work with are mind, measurements, and mind, mouth, and measurements.
Right.
So it's how do we optimize everything in our life? How do you create a life that you really love to live and have the physical and emotional health to live it? So next week, so October 14th through the 16th, I'm doing a Healthy Woman's 3-day reset. And it's really like, this is perfect for busy women who want to be able to feel better. They want more energy and they don't want to spend their life in the gym or the kitchen. We're going to go through the 3 pillars and really teach them how to take the next step so they can start to feel amazing right away. So that's available to any of your listeners. And then for somebody that's really like, I want to dive into this work and I want to be able to break through some of the things that are holding me back. And if you're ready for that work, like schedule a call with me. I'm happy to do an introduction call and chat with you about where you're at and what your goals are and help you to figure out what we need to break through to make that happen. So you can just go to talkwithjenbeck.com, schedule a barrier breakthrough session. They're about 45 minutes long. I have a couple of weeks. So if that's something that speaks to you, make sure you jump on there. They're typically a $500 session. But for your listeners, Matt, I want to be able to offer that because I know that when you start learning about this, there's like, I'm excited and I'm intrigued and I don't know. And how does it all work?
Right.
So I would love to be able to invite your listeners to be able to have that conversation.
I appreciate that. I'll let them know. Like, make sure this episode and then you get the offer. That's it. Other than that, you're on your own. Sorry. Don't care.
Right. And they can always follow me on social, Jen Beck, Complete Health, and DM me in the private messaging in the DMs. But I'm happy to answer any questions or be able to chat with anybody. This work has been so profound for me and for so many others that it's really a passion project for me to get the awareness and the knowledge out there.
I'll give you another recommendation for anyone listening that's unsure. At least on the lift side, I've gotten sessions around and he's got another one. It's totally worth doing. It's definitely life-changing. Every session, it's funny because different times I'm like, I've come on, I'm like, I thought I didn't need a session today. Something happened. I do need it. And I always come away feeling like, I don't know, like I've got more of my power back in a sense. And it's like letting go of things I didn't know. And like, you always feel better. I always feel a bit like I'm good. Whatever. Life goes on. I'll be fine. And then being okay. It's just more of that knowing of like you're safe from the get-go and just letting go of all the crap that we've taken on.
Yeah.
But we don't realize and all that stuff. So thank you for that.
Yep. Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation.
I know. I was like, we won't go that long. It's been an hour. I'm like, we just kept going and going and going, which I figured was gonna happen. So cool. But
Awesome.
anyways, I thank you for being on, Jen. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Matt. Take care.